Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. After a fairly dry February and March, we finally have some rain coming in to late April. It's nice to have a little bit of moisture underfoot and to see the dams get some water again. It was weird. Everything was kind of quite green around here still. Everything hadn't really dried out in terms of the grass, but there was just a lack of water. The dams were starting to dry up and there just wasn't that growth happening in terms of fresh new grass. So a couple of big days of rain after Easter has made everything start to feel quite wintry, which is lovely. We had our first fire this week. So back to collecting kindling and getting firewood cut, and just there's something really special about having the fire going. The guttering on the sheep shelter has done its job really well. The water has flowed down into the bath, and then that overflow is going down into the paddock behind the shelter. Until it had rained, that tub was almost empty. So now to have it overflowing is wonderful, which means all the way through winter, and when we get any big rains the rest of the year, that will mean one less job for me to do. I will not have to be replenishing the sheep's water, which is really nice. And their shelter is relatively dry compared to how it would have been if those two bars had been flowing out and under into where they are sleeping. A few random things have happened this week around the farm. The first one is that the pump here at the shed has stopped working. We haven't lost any water from the tanks, thank goodness. It's just the pump's not working. I was using the sprinkler earlier in the week before the rain on the plants that Mum had recently planted, and then I wanted to move it into the sheep paddock so that they got a bit of extra water on some of the grass in there. And once I turned the tap off and moved it, the pump just wasn't working anymore. So it was coming up with like a red failure button on there. I tried to reset it. I tried turning it off for a while until it cooled down and turning it back on. And it doesn't seem to be doing any good. And the pump's not even 2 years old. So I'm not sure if it's still under warranty. Hopefully it is. We're going to have a bit more of a look at it and just check online to see if there's anything we've missed in terms of how you could reset it or something that might have gone wrong. But probably we'll be calling the plumber next week to get him to come and have a look, check on the warranty, and hopefully we can get a new pump without too much drama, which makes doing anything over here in the shed now a little bit more difficult. I can't run water to do anything. And it stopped working right in the middle of a dye session, which I will share with you in a little bit. The other weird thing that happened was that I discovered that a rosella had been stuck in the backyard fence. It's sort of like that mesh with like a strong wire across the top, and it had managed to get its head stuck between that last bit of mesh and that strong wire. I'd seen it there earlier in the day and I thought that it was just hanging out, because often they do. They kind of hang off the different bits of the wire. But then it was in the same spot in the afternoon. I thought that's really weird. So I went into the backyard and discovered that it was stuck. And I tried to kind of loosen up the wire and hold it open for it to get out, but it didn't kind of understand how to back its head out. And it was like grabbing hold of the wire and squawking and spinning around. So I rushed down to the shed and I found the wire cutters, which weren't in their regular spot. So I was in a bit of a panic, but I found them, ran back up, and I cut that top wire to release it. And even then, it kind of still was gripping on to that wire, and it didn't understand initially that it could actually then get out. I had to kind of hold the wire up and sort of force it to let go, and then it flew away. Hopefully it is okay. It didn't appear to have had any damage that I could see. It wasn't bleeding or anything, and it seemed to fly away perfectly fine. There have been a lot of rosellas hanging around the front of my place the last few days, so I don't know if they're all come back to say thank you or if it's just a coincidence, but it's nice to see all of those rosellas around. but I'm quite aware now of just watching out for that kind of thing, because if I hadn't have noticed, we would have ended up with a poor dead rosella stuck in the fence, which would have been really, really awful. So I'm glad that I was able to get it out. So I did do some dyeing after I recorded last week, and the first two colors that I did, the water was working fine, the pump was still operating, and I was able to use as much water as I needed, and that was for speckles in blue. So it's a light blue with a few different colors of different blues speckled on top of it. And I did winter sunrise, which is a color that I really, really love. And I actually have a sample here as well. And this is a scarf, my ridge scarf pattern that I knit up in the winter sunrise, which I really love. So one skein makes a scarf. And then I went to do my new color that I've been thinking about, the color for autumn, inspired by the different colors of autumn leaves. And I didn't have any running water. So I was already planning to do the dye in a pan rather than in a pot. So a shallow kind of dye rather than full immersion. So that's a good thing. I didn't really have to change my idea of how I was going to create this color, but I did have to then bring water over from the house and only use then the water that I had with me, because I couldn't run anymore. I would have had to have gone back to the house to get some more. So there were a few restrictions about it, which kind of in the end I think helped to create the color that I did. So this is called Crushed Leaves. So it is pops of pink, reddish pink, purple, orange, yellow, and green with a sort of a brown over dye. And so I use the colors of the autumn leaves that I've seen around this season, as well as sort of that memory of when you go to a place where there's lots of changing leaves and you walk through that sort of carpet of leaves and they're all crushed and you see bright bits of color and then some more dull bits, and you see like sort of the dirt underneath or the rotting leaves that have sort of turned brown. And so this is what I came up with, and I'm really happy with it. So it started out quite bright, and then with the over dye, it sort of muted it out a little bit. So I had balled it up, and I have made my sample square, and I've also been playing around with a little bit knit in garter as well, and I just like how the little pops of color are coming out. I'm actually very, very tempted, and I'm looking at patterns right now, very tempted to dye myself up a sweater quantity of this and make a sweater out of this for myself. I am getting ready for another yarn retreat market this weekend. I'm just packing up the tubs and just doing one sort of last checklist to make sure that I have everything. These colors, along with the rest of my stock, will be going to the market. This one, Crushed Leaves, is not yet listed on the website. It will go to the market, and any that comes back will go into the shop. So keep a lookout next week if you're interested. But also, if you would like some and you know for sure, send me a message or do a custom order, and I can get that dyed up for you on any base that you like. Apart from my sample knitting this week, I didn't get a lot of other progress done, but I will show you what I did do. I probably knit about 2 rows on my socks, and then I've just put them onto holder so that I could knit the samples with the needles. So these will probably go back on to the proper needles shortly, so that I can just use these as my go-to mindless project. I've done another 13 rows on my Spectra, and I'm now very much into the green there. You can see the change. I still have so much of the ball left, and I'm about at the point where the pattern says to stop. So I'm now really torn what to do. I'll probably do a few more, but I still have so much of that ball left, and then I've got my whole other ball. So I may end up making, I don't know, like 3 different spectras, or I might look for another pattern that uses a gradient. But I am really enjoying knitting this pattern, and I think it's coming out beautifully. So I may end up with a number of these that I can wear for different occasions and know that they all kind of go together. Don't know. I think the thing that I worked the most on this week was my yellow brick rodeo, just because I'd realized that it really was just round and round. And once I finish the body, there's only a tiny bit to do on the sleeve, so it will be done really soon. I still have my first one in here, so if I line it up, I'm getting really close to putting in the ribbing at the top. So this is just a lovely knit, and I'm really enjoying it. And I thought I would share something else crafty with you this week. Previously, I have made a whole lot of poppies for Anzac Day. And this is based on a pattern, and I sort of did my own version to make it a 3-color knitted poppy. I will put a link at the end of this video to my tutorial on how to make one of these for yourself. It's a nice thing to do to reflect on the sacrifices that the soldiers made and to produce a really pretty poppy in remembrance. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.